July 13th, 2024, and I'm Bob Ballard, and I'm over here in Belfair visiting an old friend of mine, Herman Nelson, who has some historical information in regards to his involvement in Manchester. He's one of the pioneers from there, so I'd like to introduce Herman Nelson here.
Thank you.
Herb, why don't you tell us about your experiences when you came to Manchester and your experiences in Manchester, when you left, so forth.
Okay, about 1942, when the war had started, my dad got a job at Navy Yard. And so he came immediately up, and we followed in June of 1942. And at that time I had a brother and sister, the three of us. And we moved into Manchester. And we were there about 6 months, and our house burned down.
Whereabouts were you in Manchester?
Right next to the Ballards.
And
But our house burned down, and so we had to move down the beach and stay at a little small building.
okay, that's right, almost to the end of Caraway Road, and just north of town.
Yes, yes. And so my folks it was a 3-story house, and my folks had to tear out the top story and rebuild, and we used supplies from the old building and rebuild it. And my folks lived there, I think, until 1989, and my mom passed away. So we lived on the beach, and I'm not sure, but I kind of think it was about 135 lot or something, pretty long lot. I'm not sure. How long
Yeah,
was
it was very deep,
Yeah,
from the beach
yeah.
all the way up.
About 3 acres, I think.
Right, all the way up to Caraway
Yeah.
Road. And you had another little place up there too.
Yeah, on the top where Bill and Sue's lived.
Right.
Yeah, and we used to go down, we had a culvert on our property at the bottom by the garden, and we used to climb in a tunnel down to the Ballards
Oh.
culvert and throw out to the waters. We climbed from your way in, but for some reason we couldn't get through all the way. I don't know, from towards the yard from our place, the mud got halfway that thick, and and then the problem was that when we got back out to your culvert out there, the tide was coming in, and we almost didn't get out. And of course, Bob Dagney was our leader, and he was responsible for that.
Oh, he was in town. He was a young man in town then.
Yeah, well, he was I run with Dagney from I was 6 years old, the first day of school, until we both were in our 80s.
And when he refers to Bill and Sue, Bill was he worked for Manchester Water District, and he did everything for Manchester Water District back in the early days. I think that started in 42 as well.
Yes, and weren't they down by our road, Caraway Road, and then they moved over by Bowman's or somewhere? Remember?
Yeah, all I remember is him being at the end of Spring Street. That's all I know.
Because over by Todd's.
And back then there was a bridge at the very south end of Spring Street. There was a bridge that went across that ravine and went to Puget Drive.
Oh, yeah.
And then from Puget Drive you could go down and kind of cross over to Yukon Harbor, but Colchester wasn't even in.
Yeah, Tripp's lived up there. Remember Tripp?
Yeah, Bob Tripp,
yeah.
right. He had the variety store.
Yes, yes.
And he lived right there at Puget Drive, right.
And something I remember about other people was Mrs. Randall. I
Right.
loved her. She was a postmistress, I guess.
Right.
And,
Randall Lane, which is just coming out of Manchester. It's on the left-hand side.
Up
Yeah.
by the gravel pit. Remember there used to be a gravel pit there? Remember the road that run by her place?
Well, Miracle Mile, is that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's that big gouge out of there,
Yeah.
that was a gravel pit?
Yes.
That was before
Yeah.
my time, so I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and she lived up there up on the bluff above Dagney's, kind of out in there.
You're right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, then, let's see, so how old were you when you came there then?
I was about 6, and we lived at Ethel, which is south of Chehalis, and we come in the summer, and that was my first grade at Manchester. And I was just thinking of that today. Manchester School had 4 teachers. One teacher taught 2 grades. And
Was Mrs. Dennison up there?
yeah, Mrs. Dennison was there. Richie was brand new, and Dennison, and who else? There's another one I forgot. Swartz or something like that.
Oh.
And then they sent us to Orchard Heights as a 6th grader, and then to South as a 7th through 12. And I was very fortunate to have good teachers all the way through.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. So then what happened after you got out of school?
Well, when I graduated in 1954,
From South Kitsap?
yes, and
Is that where the school is now, or
pardon?
where the high school is now? Is
Yeah,
that-
up in that general area, but it wasn't this buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother graduated in 1952, and my dad was chairman of the school board, and he gave him his diploma.
Oh,
And my dad went, he
All
made
right.
it.
and
And
I didn't know he was involved in that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
he was on the school board. Him and George Price were on for years. And remember at the bottom of Mile Hill, there was a lady in a little house there, anyway, she was on the board too.
Oh, I'll be
for
darned.
years and years.
Wow.
But Bob Price was, or not, is it Bob? What was the old man's name? I'm not
Well, the Bob Price that had West Bay Auto Parts.
No, this is the milk guy.
Oh,
George?
yeah.
No, not George.
Not George, but yeah, there was another Bob Price that had Price's Dairy out on
Yes,
Sydney.
yeah.
Right.
And he had the kids, and that's, remember
Oh,
someone
okay.
married Ryan's kids. And so I graduated from the South in 1954 and went to Olympic College, 55 and 56. And my first day at Olympic College in my sophomore year, I met this beautiful little girl from Bremerton High School, and I was smitten. And we got married exactly a year later,
Oh, okay.
and went over to Ellensburg I went there for junior and senior year, and went back for a master's, and went back many times. I probably got 350 credits, college credits.
Oh, I'll be darned. From Ellensburg?
Well, all over Oregon State. I was at Oregon State for a year.
So then, okay, so after you got all these degrees, then you went to work for...
Well, I had a master's when I went to Olympic, and I was there 32 years. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were teaching in Olympic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was
What
also...
did you teach there?
Oh, I taught business, secretarial, shorthand. I'm a master shorthand writer.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and when I was in shorthand, I used to write 200 words a minute.
Whoa. And then you said music too?
Huh? Oh, I had a music scholarship, but I wasn't really that good in it. At Olympic College, they were desperate. They had new scholarships, and nobody could get a 2-point grade point. And so they asked me if I'd be in the band, and I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. But anyway, Mary Lou was a year behind me, and she was going to go to Washington State to police science. She wanted to be a policewoman.
Oh.
But I put a stop to that. And so Mary Lou and I were married 63 years and 10 months. That was a long time. And a couple of days ago was the anniversary of her death. She'd been gone 4 years, and things haven't been the same since that, because she used to really keep me in tow.
Oh, okay. All right. So you taught at Olympic for how long?
32 years.
32 years. See,
I
I
taught
didn't even know
38
that.
years altogether, yeah. And then I was also in Naval Reserves for 32 years.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was a Master Chief Yeoman, yeah. I think we were really fortunate. Olympic College had some good teachers, and I think that, and Mary Lou graduated from Olympic College, and Kathy graduated from Olympic College, and my daughter got an apprenticeship, but that was through Olympic College too at that time, so we've all pretty well been there. Except for Mark and Ed. They went to the shop, welding shops and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
okay.
we used it a lot. But
What do you remember, what was Manchester like when you were there?
Well, when Manchester
That,
was,
what about the store, the restaurant? Did it have any
we had a
library?
restaurant right down at the waterfront by the ferry dock on the left side, by
Okay.
Scavinus's, if you know where they
Right,
were.
yeah.
And a very good restaurant there. And used to have a little,
You remember who ran that?
yes,
Was it a hall, was it?
no, but there was,
Marion Hall used to sell tickets to the ferry down there.
yeah, Ina Dagny did too, you know.
Okay.
And Jean Olson did too. Do you know Jean Olson? She was there for many years. She lived down towards Dagny's.
Oh, sure, yeah.
A couple houses
Right,
from
yeah,
Dagny.
she lived 2 doors north of Dagny.
Yeah, and she used to be ticket taker too. And I remember that, see, I had to go one day a month to an orthodontist in Seattle, so we rode the ferry over and back.
And the ferry left Manchester.
Yeah, and
And
then
did they move it to Coleman Dock yet, or was it at Alki?
no, it was still, I never went to Alki. Never
So
was.
it was at Coleman
Yeah.
Dock.
But then they quit that, so then I had to go to Harper. Well, then I had to walk back and forth once a month. And then Harper quit, so then I went to Bremerton and got the ferry across the pond to where the Retzel is, and then walked home.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But-
So it had a good restaurant and, let's see, did it have a library?
No, in fact, you know where the library was?
Yeah, it was that
right
little
next to your,
dad's place.
yeah. And that was built by a lot of the citizens. My dad was involved pretty heavy in that. They got the lumber.
I heard it
built.
was a chicken coop that
Yeah, something like that. It was.
they drug down there on
Yeah.
logs or something.
Yeah, and right above him was who's the guy that lived up the hill? Remember the corner up the top?
Costello? No.
Well, yeah, that was him. And then there was Russ England. lived
Russ
up there,
England, yeah,
too.
he lived next door to
Yeah.
Costello.
And you know, across from Costello, up there used to be a house in there.
Oh, that was,
But anyway, we voted in a building there, and I can remember that when I was real little. That's where my parents go upstairs, and there was kind of a old building, and they voted there. And I can remember that. And then Cap Aikens, and he had all the cold storage.
yeah, right at the corner of, basically at the corner of Spring and Main
Yeah.
was the cold storage place.
And then
There was a store there too.
Next, there was a barber shop somewhere up. What was the barber shop? Dean, what was his name?
Dean Noble.
Yes, yeah.
And
I can't remember where the barber shop was then,
yeah.
but then going down there was Daniels, Charlie Daniels, and the Insleys. Do you know the Scavinuses?
A professor in
Fritz?
Seattle, Fritz Cavanius.
Yeah, but they were both master pianists,
Right.
and they played before the command
Between-
performance.
Between the Queen of England, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
amazing. And everybody in my family, Bub had like 5 years of piano from him, and then I had like 3, and then they kicked me out. And then by the time it got to Susie, my folks didn't have any more money. But anyway, they were sweet people to me, and they tried their darndest, and I was just a klutz. I mean,
Well, he taught music in Seattle. Yeah, they gave a command performance for the Queen of England, I remember that.
yeah.
And they taught piano. A lot of people had lessons.
Did they live there until they passed, or?
Yeah, they had another house behind there. that
Oh, did
lived
they?
There. There was a studio and then a house behind. Now, you said there was a restaurant,
The restaurant was right next to them.
and it was good?
Towards the boat deal, but on the same side as them. And that
Was
was,
it behind? See, his building was right at the beach. I mean, the water would slosh up
Yes,
against us.
but it was next
And then
to-
the boat launch was there.
but there wasn't a boat launch then.
There wasn't.
No, the ferry dock was the first thing you hit.
Okay.
And right on, here's the ferry dock, and it was a long one towards Edwards, where they live, McEdwards or whatever.
Oh, okay. It went
Yeah.
went
Yeah,
north.
and that's
That
where the
building went-
slots were, and that was the main restaurant in town.
Yeah.
And one other thing I was going to mention is, do you know where the field was in front of Dennison's house? Dennison was that big 3-story
Right.
Well, we used to play football on that field. Ball, and you'd have young guys like me, 8 years old, playing with Russell England and Bob Dagney and Dave Hussey. Did you know him?
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah, well, Hussey, yeah. Pritchard played with us, a lot of those guys. Dennison's had a long piece of property, a lot of frontage.
I guess let's talk about the brush business. That was a big deal. I don't think people realize in Manchester how big the brush business was. I know that your family and my family started out in the brush business, and there was so many brush plants around. We've been talking about, go ahead and talk about the brush business a little bit.
Okay. In 1950, a friend of my dad's at the Manchester, his name Buzzy Moe. I don't know if you met him, but anyway, he talked about Callison Plant in Port Orchard. Yeah, they were run by a lot of people you know. A lot of the owners, Ballards were somehow involved in that. And anyway, he took us out brush picking, and my folks went out with me, and we were hooked. We were hooked for life. My dad was making $40 a week at Manchester, and the first day
At the Manchester Fuel Depot?
Yeah, and within
$40 a week for a federal job.
Yes, that's before taxes. And after a couple of months, we were making $60 a day picking brush.
Oh my word.
The three of us, you know. And people said, well, why didn't Bub go out? And everybody else, and my dad says, oh hell, I can't stand those people. They talk all the time. Bub would go hide and play tricks on people and never pick. But anyway,
Bub wouldn't pick?
Not very much. He would sneak off and do his little thing. He was a thinker, not a worker. But anyway, we became very involved in it, and I figure that I've probably picked at least 5,000 days in the woods. I was in almost 70 years in the brush, and not too much in the last 20.
Tell people that have no idea what pick and brush is. What does a plant look like that should be picked? How do you pick it? And I know there's hands and bales and bunches and all that.
Okay, so before I'd started, brush picking consisted, in 1934 they sword fern, and they used to put 51 stems and a rubber band around it and sell it. I don't remember what then, but I'd guess about 18 cents. Okay, then followed Huck, and Huck was big for all of the Depression years and through the 40s. And then in about 1950, a friend of ours was a head buncher down at Port Orchard, Ludi Lindeman, was there Al Lindeman. He worked at Manchester too. And they taught us how to pick Huck. And we just got tons of Huck from that point on. And what I would do at Olympic College, I'd schedule my classes. So my first class was a 7, and I'd do a 7, 8, and 9 daily. And by 11 o'clock, I was in the woods.
Oh.
And I'd pick till dark.
You could make more money in the woods than you would.
Than I'm making a teaching. Yeah. I probably averaged 180 bunches a day for 4,000 days.
Oh, wow.
And I never picked over 4 hours, but I was very quick. And then I'd get home, and then I'd study.
Well, how do you, when you approach a plant, how do you know what plant to look for, and what's a hand and a bunch and a bale and all that?
Okay, and when we started, a bunch was 3/4 pounds dry, or 7/8, 1 7/8 if it was wet. Okay, and we started out with Huck. Sword fern was first, then Huck. Okay, when Huck come in, that's just the evergreen Huck, the big bushes, the big dark green. You make them flat, pull off shoots and stuff, clean the handles, and then in those days they didn't let us bunch them, and so we'd take in loose, and we'd probably bale it in 40, 50 bunch bales, which was quite a bit. That was 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And
a hand? What's a hand?
A hand is, Probably, and when we started, we got 18 cents, and it was a pound and 3/4 dry.
And that's a hand.
Yes, yeah.
And then did you wire the hand together?
Well, yeah, we originally wired them, but then they went to rubber bands, and when they did that, then we bunched them into wood.
Because my dad used to have a brush hook, and it was a wire about this long with a loop on both ends.
Yeah, I'd
And
seen
then
that, but I never used that.
You never used that.
Yeah, but anyway, we picked a lot of huck, and like I said, we had the little Jeep, and he put a rack on the back and go clear up over the top with bales. And my mom and dad and I, when we had good brush, would probably pick 400 bunches in a Saturday morning. And we picked a lot. And they didn't pay much, 18 cents, but now you get about 80 cents or more. And then about 1950, this Ludi Lindemann I was telling you about was a great buncher down at Dex, who had the Callison plant. I don't remember.
Callison, I don't know.
But anyway, she bunched very fast. My mom bunched there with her, and they get so much a bunch, which wasn't very good. But just as an example, when I'd go to Olympic College and then come home in the days, I was making more than I was teaching college. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sad, you know. That's always been the problem. But it was just a blessing for my family, you know. To have a second income was just unbelievable.
Right, that's
And
right.
so Salal became the leader, and now Salal is about 98% of all the brush.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, no huck hardly at all.
Okay. Now, maybe you have some experience. I remember when my dad had Ballard, Fern, and Evergreen, he took these penny postcards and he wrote on them what he could do and per carload, and he'd mail it back east, and they would communicate, and he would ship railroad cars of brush back east, because around here people says, what do they use brush for? Well, they use it for floral arrangements.
Yeah.
Mostly back east, I think.
Yeah, and see, he was one of the first ones to do the train thing, you know, because it didn't really start until the Depression. That's about when things perked up. And then the war kind of slowed down because nobody could pick anymore. But then it was going strong in 46, 47, yeah. But it was a blessing for me. You know, I put myself through all those years of college. And
When, because you were picking.
yes, yeah. Another thing too, my brother was in the Navy, joined the Navy when I was going to college at Olympic. And so every month he sent me an $80 check. He got me through college. And then I graduated, and my brother went to college. And he went to Olympic and on through. And so I paid him $80 a month back.
Yeah.
And it was pretty neat because I could have never afforded it otherwise. It was just, times were just too tough.
Right, right.
And but then Mary Lou and I, when we were like at Ellensburg, we'd come home almost every weekend and pick brush,
Oh, you
unless there was snow in the pass or something. And
Yeah.
then we'd ride a Greyhound.
Oh, you would?
Yeah. And then after we got out of school, like I said, I just picked and I just love it. I love being out there. I love having my dogs with me. You know, nobody sasses me. And
Does your hands, don't they must get really callous?
oh, it does, but that's why I can't straighten my hands now. See how that's from too much work. You know,
Yeah.
just thousands and thousands of, and you break them, big ones. You know, and Mary Lou, I tried to get her to pick. She wouldn't pick. And one day my dad asked her, and she said yes. About broke my heart. But anyway, the first day Mary Lou picked huck, she picked 52 bunches.
Whoa.
And I proposed that night.
Well, anyway, it's been a pleasure.
No.
I appreciate you so much meeting with me and going over old times.
Yeah.
It was great. And thank you very much.
Oh, I appreciate it too. Thank you.